Bill McEwen, our news director, wrote a great column calling out Trustee Veva Islas and Andy Levine that they're not speaking up. They were champions of the underserved, champions, the folks, the poor, champions of the folks that have been mistreated in the system, whether it's education or in our Central California. I remember Andy Levine, Trustee Levine, was talking about several years ago universal minimum pay. How do we take care of people in our backyard? And Bill wrote an article. I'm sorry, not an article, a column said that they need to speak up. They've seen everything that's going on at Fresno Unified. They need to speak up. They need to be the champion that they told us they're going to be. And by the way, we invited, and I'm going to say this several times, we invited Veva Islas, who I have met personally several times, and she wants to do the right thing for this community. But she did not respond to GB Wire to come on this show. This column is on GB Wire. You can read it, and Bill is going to talk about it in a minute. Miss Islas made that comment, and that was, by the way, at the appointment of Misty Her as the new superintendent. And this is a comment that was, I want to say, it's very offensive to somebody. Now, we don't always agree. This is part of the beautiful parts of our country. We disagree. I disagree with Bill. Bill disagrees with me. Mike and I disagree on issues. I mean, this is a beautiful part of our country. We debate issues, and we let common sense and logic and good thinking prevail. And those companies are going to be successful. And I'm going to get to Mike here. Mike, did you want to say something? I want to get to you in a minute. So here's what's offensive about this post. It says, for the record, a white man. I mean, if that's not racist, honestly, I don't know what is. To change the word white to black or to Hispanic, who has lost his way as a journalist. Lost his way as a journalist? I mean, GB Wire has...
First of all, Darius, you know that Fresno Unified only likes things written with AI. We know that.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. But he lost his way as a journalist. Look at all the awards that GB Wire has won with the newspaper. I'm sorry, California Publishers. I don't know the exact term of the organization that is independent body that rates news companies all across the state. And every year, GB Wire wins the #1 or #2 spot in multiple categories. News Publishers Association, something, a California News Publishers Association. But, you know, I'm really disappointed in Miss Islas for making this comment. Instead of saying, you know what, Bill, why did you write this column? And let's talk about why I've been silent and why I passed up 3 other fantastic superintendents as candidates to go with a local person, and explain that to the audience. I am disappointed too, because there's lots of opportunity. If Miss Veva Islas cares about the underserved, she should be holding the administration a lot more accountable. One of the comments I've made, by the way, is that not everybody at Fresno Unified, obviously not every member of the Board of Trustees, but when you want to vote to keep the same bureaucracy in place, those charts tell the story. Because I've talked about why do some members of the Board of Trustees want to keep brown and black kids poor when you can't educate them. And of course, education is not all about the classroom, and I get that. We all get that. Starts at home, starts with parenting. But that chart says it all. And let's go to the next chart. Compares Fresno Unified.
You will see in Misty's story that when...
Okay. And that compares Fresno Unified to the other schools in our area. And you can see it's the worst performer. Now, it is the third largest school district in California, but you've had so many opportunities for improvement. You've just passed on other great candidates nationwide. One of them was a superintendent of the year. And then to make a point, when Bill calls you out to say from a white man, that's honestly that's it's very disappointing. I'm very disappointed at Miss Islas. I have more comments that I'm going to hold until Bill and Mike have finished their comments. I want to turn it over to Bill McEwen. By the way, Bill McEwen, who I'm going to say this, has one of the highest moral compasses of anybody I know in our community. He works hard day in and day and night, and he doesn't need to. Bill could be retired, but he loves and cares about this community. And he wants to help inform and educate and bring the latest with great integrity to this community, to their viewers of Central California. Bill?
Thank you, Darius. I'll note, yes, the trustee brought up race, sex, and in another comment, she even raised my age and my physical appearance. And you know what, Darius? I think I look okay for a guy that had to fight cancer, a guy that was in St. Agnes for 33 straight days with all kinds of viral infections. So, and the point I want to make is she didn't address any issue in the column. And also, I didn't raise sex or age or anything else. Neither are there any personal attacks in that column. Her reaction was a personal attack. Instead of debating the merits of the column, instead of saying, I could point to 8 things where I spoke out loudly, Bill's wrong on that. And that'd be fine. But she made it about race, sex, my age. And here's the interesting thing when she says, I have an agenda, it's not his agenda. So I want to clearly state what my agenda is. That Black, Brown, and Southeast Asian and special ed students get the tools and instruction they need to succeed in life. So apparently that's not her agenda, because my agenda has been stated in my columns, whether written for the Fresno Bee or for GV Wire, anywhere else over the years. That's clearly the agenda. I want the listeners, again, my agenda is that Black and Brown, Southeast Asian, and special ed students get the tools and instruction they need to succeed. Veva says her agenda is not my agenda. So I would hope that voters in the McLean district would compare and contrast. The other thing I would say is I've been a taxpayer into Fresno Unified for nearly 50 years. The trustee can't say that. I doubt if she's even been a Fresno Unified taxpayer for 10 years. The other thing is I've volunteered many more hours to Fresno Unified than she has. She's in a paid position. Yet for many years, I was a reading tutor at Kirk Elementary School. Took my own time, my own lunch time, my own break time, my own after work time to go in and help students read. So yes, I find her remarks very offensive and quite frankly, surprising for someone who champions equity and inclusion. Apparently, in her world, inclusion do not include 72-year-old men who've lost a bit of their hair. And so, you know, it's clear there's no defense for her remarks. The other thing I want to make clear is I heard from many community members who said the column was right on. And the people I heard from, many of them Latino leaders.
So have I. So have I, Bill.
So the trustee can say and stand on her high horse. Again, I've never brought up age, sex, any of the isms in talking about what she's done. The other thing is the record's quite clear. She's been there nearly 8 years. Test scores haven't advanced. Black, brown, Southeast Asian, special ed students still not getting the tools, the instruction, the emotional support they need. And during her nearly 8 years on the board, if you go to a board meeting, until maybe a year ago, it was always how fabulous Fresno Unified is. And there's no defense for that. And I don't expect miracles overnight, but as someone who went to Fresno Unified, graduated from Fresno High School, my wife Karen and I sent both of our boys to Fresno High School and they graduated and they're successful. We want to see that success for a lot of other families in Fresno Unified. So this comes from my heart. She can say all the bad things she wants. She can cast aspersions. She can attack me. Here's the thing, Trustee Islas, I'm not going away.
I don't think Trustee Islas needs to explain her comments. She needs to apologize to Bill. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been covered, but if you read very carefully between the lines, it's correct. She references his gender, she references his race, she references his age. Now, Bill can't change the fact that he was born white and she didn't have to, or that he was born male. I can't change it, neither can the trustee. Age, kind of a low blow. I can tell you, I come from a culture where we don't always agree with our elders, but we sure as hell respect them. And this is a very offensive comment. I don't care if it's Trustee Islas or another trustee or me or the mayor. If any one of us put a comment like this, we'd probably be called out, especially if we referenced another race. For people that say, oh, you can't be racist against a white male, that's a load of crap. Racism's racism. This is wrong. She should apologize. And I would say that if it was one of my colleagues on the council that did this, or it was the mayor or someone else, it's not picking on her. She's the one that chose to make these comments that had nothing to do with the story. And what does that mean? That she had to go to personal and baseless attacks. I get it. It was for her a critical article. It happens to all of us, unfortunately. We don't always like it, but that doesn't mean you do this. And the problem is she knows she's going to get away with it. That's the saddest thing about this. And these are the people making decisions that raise the next generation of Americans. That's the reality here. And I would suggest, if for the sake of her own soul, call Bill. He's a very approachable, very generous person. I know Bill. I'd say this if he wasn't even here. And I'm sure he'll be very gracious and we can all move on. But I don't think she has the character to do that. And that's the sad thing.
Thank you, Mike and Bill, for those comments. And by the way, I'm really hopeful that Miss Islas was just overreacting and put that post, or maybe somebody put that post on her behalf. I don't know.
Come on, Darius. This
Okay.
isn't the first time she's played the race card. And you know what? Voters get tired of that. We can't get away with that forever. Like you said, solve a problem. I know she has a very hard job. The entire board has a very, very hard job. But that was uncalled for. If any one of the kids at Fresno Unified did that, would they be called out? It's wrong. She totally went after his. It was a personal attack for no reason. It was wrong. Just because you're mad at somebody doesn't mean you get to talk that way about them, especially when you're elected in that position. It's wrong. Sorry.
Great point.
If I did that, I'd be called out. She'd be the loudest voice against me. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. We have to have some standards.
If you put something up that says, for the record, a Hispanic woman that said something, I mean,
even a white man, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I mean, you'll be racist or ageist or sexist. I get in trouble for it. It's not right. I should get in trouble because it's wrong.
Yeah. So, Miss Islas, I hope that you will come on this show and apologize to Bill, or just call him and have a conversation with him. And by the way, more importantly, work on fixing Fresno Unified. Hold the superintendent accountable and her cabinet accountable, and your vote counts. And we know that Andy Levine follows a lot of your leadership, Ms. Islas, on the board. So That's
Let,
please.
let me let
Yeah,
me add one last point,
yeah.
just from human to human. Look, I'm sure we all in politics get these critical articles, and it's hard to read, and I'm sure it was hurtful. But imagine the hurt Bill must have felt. He's got thick skin, but he's a person. When he's not getting attacked for anything that he had control over, anything he said in his article, it's merely going after things you're born with or time, age. It's just so utterly wrong. And that's not fair game.